Today we're here with a special guest, Nick von Albedyhll. He's an alumni and a graduate of 2015. Nick was a prefect, commanding officer, Cadet Corps number 2. He started his career at Greer South as junior house and ended as a senior house at Williams. Today he's honored and appreciative of the fact of doing an interview to speak to the disaster in the Bahamas in late August, September with Hurricane Dorian. So let's give Nick a warm virtual welcome. Hi, Nick.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. You have a beautiful backdrop.
Yeah, usually it's a bit more sunny, but today it just decided to be a little rainy on this day.
I wanted to thank you very much. I appreciate also that you're able to speak to, I know it's been quite distant, but I'm very appreciative of the fact that you're able to speak to our students. We did some fundraising back, as you know, in September at the beginning of the academic year. And we raised about $800. So I'm really happy that you're able to speak to the questions and the scope of what took place in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
So I guess to begin, I would have to say that what made this hurricane so special?
Well, first and foremost, the reason that this hurricane stood out over every other hurricane that we've ever seen is because it was the strongest hurricane ever recorded to have hit land. And it's categorized as a Category 5 hurricane, but the categories only go up to Category 5, which is 155 miles per hour wind. This was 210 mile per hour wind gusts, and it also, taking that into account, it had 19 foot of storm surge, which on my island of Grand Bahama covered 80% of the entire island. Only 20% of the island was unflooded. So it just goes to show how much damage there is. And even on top of that, other things inside of the hurricane are tornadoes and so on. And it's just so much damage that can be struck in one bit of time. And sorry, as well, the hurricane, even worse than that, it stayed over the island for 2 days before it ended up going north towards the Americas. So it really, all these things factor into just a lot of devastation for a lot of people here on the island.
Right. So every year, clearly, your infrastructures, your preparation, there's a time of year where you're prepared for hurricanes. So you said how this was a special hurricane, but so what was it like? How was it different, and what was it like for this particular hurricane?
Well, to put it in perspective a bit, Bahamas has some of the strictest building codes in all of the Americas. We can't build any houses out of wood or anything that is easily collapsible for the sake of hurricanes, because we have them a lot. It's nothing new for us, but this was just completely different. You can have houses that are made of 2 to 3 cinder blocks thick, which is basically a bunker. And even in that, with all the torrential water and wind, those walls might knock down, and no matter how well you prepare, it can really just, it can get you. And part of the fact that it really damaged us is we didn't take it seriously until it actually came down to it. Only a week before did we think it was a tropical storm, and nobody could have predicted that it would have been this bad. So people only started stocking up a couple of days before, and put on the fact that we only get one shipment of food and groceries and stuff like that a week. The stores were empty well before the hurricane, and we didn't have time to restock before it hit. So all of these things just added up. But I'm sorry, what's the question? How was it during the storm? I forgot.
No, you're answering that fine. And I think just to add, you're talking to prepping for the storm to come, and that it was at a magnitude that no one expected. And like, how did the people handle it once it became, I guess, to a point that was different from years past or experiences past?
Well, we managed to finally figure out how bad it was, because to the east of us is Abaco Island. They were actually the first ones that got struck by Hurricane Dorian, and they were hit even worse than us in Grand Bahama. So we had that as a bit of a frame of mind to get ready in the days to come, find some shelter, get out of the island, all these things, all these last minute efforts that you can do. But at the end, there's only so much that you can do. And a lot of people end up finding that the hard way, sadly.
We did see a lot. We did see a lot of footage, of course, right? And how was communication during that time? Was there any communication? Was the electricity or like the water, was that easily
Yeah.
easily restored, or like how did that sort of go in the few months that followed?
Well, it actually made a massive difference during the hurricane. We have two cell phone providers on the island, and one of them, all their towers, because they got them cheap, all of them fell down. So anybody with this cell phone company lost all communication with the world. But the other one, which was new, all of their towers managed to stay up during the hurricane, and that made a huge difference when it came to helping people out. I had a friend. Her dad was living in a spot where it was severely flooded, and he was stuck in his attic for 2 days straight in his underwear while the water was up to his attic. He was a diabetic. He couldn't get any food, nothing, but he managed to text his location, and everybody on social media who had nothing else to do because they were hunkered inside, everybody started organizing search and rescues. And these weren't even people that were specialized in this. This was just a bunch of people that had maybe a small boat, a little jet ski or something like that. So a lot of people really came together during the storm and did a lot of search and rescue. But it made the absolute biggest of a difference. So many people could have been were saved because of it, but they really put themselves at risk. My boss was telling me today, because they launched the boats from this little bridge, and when you get over the bridge, there's no protection from any of the wind. So as soon as they had this 4-ton truck with all this weight behind them, as soon as they got past the trees, this 4-ton truck already moved 1 meter instantly. So you can really imagine just what these people had to go through to save people. But they were relentless, and it can really be spoken about the heroism that we had here. So it made the utmost of difference here.
And Nick, and it's been a distance since we connected to speak to all this, and we spoke briefly in September, and I read out your passage in assembly, and you wanted the funds to go to a particular organization, which I know you'll speak to that. But how, in this short period of time, really, if you think about it, from September to now, lots have gone on for your recovery, of course, but also with with this COVID-19 on top of it all. So how is the recovery going? How do you see it moving forward?
I reckon for us to get back for the entire island to where we were before, it's going to be 5 years minimum, at least. Because if you go to the east end of the island, there's one big cluster called Freeport, which is a city, and anything out of there is more barren and in the land, and they don't have, it's more of a commute. But the thing is, all the power lines there got knocked down. They have no water. Yeah, speaking of water, all our water comes from underground wells, and we have 200 wells drilled in the island, and all of that got flooded with seawater. And even today, when I take a shower or something like that, I'm bathing in seawater, and that hasn't changed since the hurricane. But we've had, I mean, one of the things as well, our hospital got completely destroyed. It's still under construction now. We're still, using tents that foreign aid has given us. But one of the things that made in my opinion, one of the biggest differences in recovery is, first off, all the help that we got from, especially places like Canada. Canada really did a lot for us, but also the fact that the hurricane didn't hit the U.S. Because if it hit the U.S., they were prepared. They already made preparations in advance. If they got hit with it, they would have, rightfully so, of course, prioritized themselves first. But they had all this stuff stockpiled, and they didn't need it for themselves. They immediately sent it over to us, and that made the absolute biggest of a difference. And so the money that BCS raised is going to go to the Grand Bahama Disaster Relief Foundation, and they basically pick out where the money needs to go. It's either in supplies or construction or just maintenance, anything that needs it. I can't say exactly where it goes, but it's going to be used well, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Well, thank you for giving light on that. It's clearly a challenging time for all, and really, really appreciate the fact that you take the time to share with us the scope in which, the hurricane hit, but also moving forward. It's not easy to talk to, and it's definitely not easy to really explain it all clearly. But it's good to see that the community came together, that you had the support. There were some positives that came from it. And I think also, if you could speak to some of the positives in the sense that the company now that you work for sort of came out of this, the disaster that happened.
Yeah. So my company is, I don't know if you can see it, Coral Vita. It's a little small.
Yeah.
But basically, we are the first commercial coral farm in the world. So our job, what we're trying to do, is to restore the dying reefs around the Bahamas and eventually the world, where we're trying to expand to. But it's hard to say, but this hurricane was actually a bit of a blessing in disguise for us, even though it did destroy our farm. And we're still in the process of rebuilding it. We've got corals in the tanks now that we're growing, but this storm really gave us a foot to stand on with climate change, because one of the best uses of reefs for us is coastal defense, because it can reduce wave damage and coastal erosion by up to 90%. And had we had healthy reefs growing out, we likely would have had less storm surge and a lot less damage. So this really let the world know that we really have to watch out for our environment, and it's given us a lot of help in a way, basically. And we also do, if anybody ever wants to have a coral or something that they want to grow themselves, we do adopt a coral programs, or if you want to help work out here, help is always needed. And I'm sure you have another question.
Is there an opportunity ever, if we were to send a,
I found this
excuse me.
Is there an opportunity?
Sorry about that. I guess it was a question that that had Siri interested as well. Is there an opportunity for an example, if we had a group of students from the school that would like to maybe at some point, of course, do some service in the Bahamas? Is this an opportunity that could help with the coral reefs, or with the relief fund, or any area in that regard?
Always, we always want help, and that's either Coral Vita or the island. We have still a lot of help organizations here. They're helping rebuild homes, and all these type of things. or we can use interns as well. We always appreciate a helping hand, even job opportunities as well. As long as you need, as long as you want, we can always use a hand, basically. And so from the island, there's always
Okay.
all.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. And again, Nick, thank you for taking the time and providing us with feedback on where the funding, where that's going to go. But equally, just like how you're managing and moving forward, and very much appreciated. And again, if there's something, please reach out to us. We're always happy to be in touch clearly and to be involved.
Yeah.
So, is there anything more that you'd like to say?
It's tough, but I would have definitely preferred to say this in chapel myself. Sometime maybe I'll give another talk about the environment or so on. So this isn't the last time you'll see me.
Well, we would love to have you in chapel, no doubt. And you're right, it would be great to have you more in person than virtually. But again, for the third time, really much appreciated.
No worries. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.